is 5 Live with Donal MacIntyre.
On tonight's programme, the dream homes that are turning into a nightmare for their owners. Over the past 10 years, luxury apartment blocks have been springing up all over the UK, with developers promising a sophisticated urban lifestyle, but it sometimes comes at an unexpected price. With no limit to the fees some companies are charging to take care of apartment buildings, we hear from the homeowners who want out. Helen Grady has more.
Yes, Donal, with more people opting for city living, someone has to look after all those buildings that house those luxury flats. Enter the property management agencies. If your flat has a lift, shared hallways, maybe even CCTV, a management agency will look after all of that for you, and they'll send you the bill with their fee included. But there's a growing problem of people buying into managed apartment blocks and then finding their bills keep going up and they're not getting the services they expected for their money.
And so what evidence have you found of this?
Well, the government's own advice service has seen a big rise in inquiries over the past year. They told me most of those have been about problems to do with service charges. And earlier this week, I spoke to a group of residents who were really typical of some of the flat owners who've been in touch with us at this programme. They all bought flats in the same block in Stratford, in the East End of London. It's just around the corner from the 2012 Olympic site. But now they want to move because they say their managing agent, a company called Peverel, which is a major player in this sector, keeps hiking up the charges. But those residents say Peverel is failing to deliver the services they expect for the price they're paying. This is Sedge Babra. He bought his flat in 2003.
It was definitely marketed at young professionals, which both my wife and I were at the time. Concierge, secure, gym access. So even though we're sort of in urban inner city London, very much sort of a high-end premium set of apartments, and that's what we paid our money for.
And you knew you were going to be paying a maintenance fee to a management company?
Yeah, and absolutely happy to pay that.
And what were you expecting from the management company?
Essentially, just for them to take all the hassle away of me living here.
And has that happened?
No, it hasn't. The amount of work that I personally have done to chase the management company Peverel up for outstanding jobs. Some things were trivial, like the external windows in my flat hadn't been cleaned for probably best part of 3-4 years, despite me repeatedly chasing them. And then there's sort of some more the dramatic issues, several cases of vandalism. Considering that this is supposed to be a locked, secure complex, it's baffling to find out that there have been massive breaches of security here.
And what sorts of breaches of security are you talking about?
There'd be graffiti or bikes have been stolen. I know at least of a couple of residents who've actually had their flats burgled, broken into in broad daylight, with concierge staff on duty.
What, so thieves would have walked out past the concierge?
Yeah.
With their bag of loot or whatever?
Apparently so. They just walked in, the concierge officers thought they were just residents or somebody moving in or moving out and didn't even question them.
Well, not exactly secure then, Helen.
No, even when I went to visit, I didn't have to use the buzzer. The concierge saw me at the door and opened it for me, no questions asked. And apparently on one occasion, someone even managed to steal a cross trainer from the gym.
And that's pretty ambitious theft, isn't it? Now, you'd have thought someone would have noticed it.
Well, yeah, it's a big piece of kit, but there were CCTV cameras that should have captured that. In fact, residents are paying more than £1,600 a year for those cameras to be maintained. The problem is that on some of the occasions when residents asked to see the footage, they were told that either the cameras weren't working or concierge staff just didn't know how to view the footage.
And what do we know about this management company, Peverel?
Well, you may have heard the name Peverel in the news recently. That's because they've been facing heavy criticism over some of the fees they've been charging pensioners in retirement flats, and there's been a big campaign to get them to cut those fees.
And how much are these people in Stratford paying in maintenance charges?
Well, there are 72 flats in that block I visited, and each of those flats is paying between £1,400 and just over £3,000.
And that's £3,000 for one flat for 1 year, and I think you'd reasonably expect top service for that.
Well, it's definitely not cheap, especially given that residents say they're not even getting some of the most basic services that they're paying for. And Sedge says his bills have rocketed since he first moved in back in 2003.
The basic fee was around about £120 a month, plus the water and ground rent on top of that as well.
And how much are you paying now?
Well, this is the thing. I think I'm paying about £200 a month, but the way the fees are structured is very, very baffling. I'm not quite sure what the exact fee is right now.
So
So that's a rise of more than 65% over the past 6 years, and Sedge is now paying around £2,400 this year. And now that said, Peverel told us that charges had only increased by around 1.5% in the past 12 months. Now, Sedge isn't the only one who's confused about the exact total he's paying. This is Chiara Pinder-Smith. She founded the building's Residents Association, which she did to try and manage the complaints that the residents had about Peverel.
To be honest, I've just lost count. I'm just at the stage where I'm kind of giving up because I get invoices here and there through the post that I don't know what it's for. I call Peverel, ask for a breakdown. They're always in meetings, they're always busy, they're never available to speak to me. It's got out of hand. Some people don't receive the invoices, some people do, and we don't know what they're for. And like people have said, they're so busy that we just pay them, because otherwise we get another letter saying last warning, otherwise they'll take us to court or something, so we have to pay it.
But you accept that living in flats, you're going to have to pay maintenance fees?
Yes, of course. I don't mind paying if we actually get what we're paying for, but at the moment the prices just keep increasing and nothing's being done.
They're not very happy, and they're paying $2,000 and $3,000 in service charges. Very steep to you or me. But this is London. Is that just the going rate?
Well, Peverel say it is. Now, there is an independent tribunal that rules on whether charges are reasonable. Obviously, managing agents and residents often disagree on that definition. In one case, that tribunal ruled that Peverel's charges for the block I visited were at the lower end of the scale of managing agent charges in London, to quote them, and offered, quote, good value for money. Now, that said, I spoke to an estate agent who knows Stratford very well, and he thought Peverel's bills for maintenance services for residents in that bill were excessive and could be off-putting. I did check the charges for similar flats in that area, and they were substantially lower.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Now, let's bring in our first guest now. Dudley Joyner is the founder of the Right to Manage Federation, a not-for-profit company that promotes residents' rights. Now, I suppose, Dudley, is this a familiar story?
Yes, it's a very familiar story. We've seen an increasing number of complaints from that particular, or from estates managed by that particular property manager, Peverel. And very often one can identify the particular areas where charges are excessive. We had a case very recently where an estate was previously being charged £10,200 for its insurance by Peverel, and when they changed and appointed a new managing agent, they were able to get that insurance for £1,200.
So is it a growing problem in the sector outside of just the story about Peverel?
Yes, it is. Without mentioning other names, right across the sector we are getting complaints about service charges and the quality of service. To give you one other example with a different managing agent, this is a block of flats in London, 90 flats, valued between £250,000 and £300,000, so not excessively expensive. They were billed the year before last £651,000 for replacing central heating boilers that an independent surveyor said should have cost somewhere around about £110,000.
Okay, well, it's quite a gap there. Extraordinary. Well, Dudley, stay with us. Now, let us know what you think. What's your experience? Are you paying through the nose for a non-existent service? Or perhaps you're getting what you paid for? Text us 85058 or email me donal@bbc.co.uk.